Sometimes videos start in one place and end in another. The video started out as the repair of this 1983 Honda ATC200. It leaks oil, it's got a shifter problem, and I figured I'll just pull the engine off, we'll fix it. From there, it went to parts engines and other engines, and eventually settled on this eBay engine that I bought a number of years ago that I want to get running to put on that ATC200 I just mentioned. And as I started to work on this eBay engine, I realized there was a lot of things I wanted to check out before I smashed it on the frame. Some mistakes that its previous owner made. Some other problems I discovered on these other engines that other people made before I got them. So I figured, you know what? Let me smash all of that into one engine and then move forward on swapping an engine. Here are a couple of scrap motors that I picked up from my buddy Steve. A few things to just notice quickly. They have the shifter shaft, which I happen to need for that other motor. And if you go to shift them, turn them over, they do shift into gear. This one is missing the shifter shaft, but it has the flywheel. The stator's missing. So there are a couple of other pieces on that. Now you might look at these engines and say there's not that much there, but between the flywheel over there and you see this gear, these particular retaining bolts are kind of hard to find, especially in both these sprockets. All of them are there. A straight shifter is kind of hard to find. A lot of times from beating around, people bend these, right? This plug, always good to have a spare. Piston appears good, right? And there doesn't, well, yeah, there might be just a touch of rod knock. So a lot of good parts between these two. So even if you get a short block, really don't pass them up. You also have all the nuts and bolts for the case. You got this cover. I don't know if the clutch and all are in there, but on this one, all that's intact. On that one, it's missing. I started fishing through the hoard looking for another replacement engine, and I found this guy. And I'm not sure where this guy came from. I seem to remember carrying it in a flea market, it being crazy heavy. Unfortunately, water came pouring out of it, and it is rock solid seized. And I really hate to see that. And finally, I think I ran across a good engine. I believe I bought this engine more or less as you see it. Dumb things like the tape over the intake and everything else. I think it was an eBay engine. I don't know. I think I did put a shifter on it and made sure it shifted. And it's an older engine. It's got the downshift pattern. The older engines with the downshift pattern, believe it or not, have a tendency for the linkage to lock up, so they won't shift anymore. So unless you can shift them, you're kind of taking a little bit of a chance. The shifter lever is not stripped out. I am missing the basket and the recoil, though I have the advancer. Seems to be seized. I'm missing the rest of it. So just by the looks of it and everything else, I have a tendency to believe I bought the motor like this. Looks pretty corroded, and there's stuff in the holes and all. I don't think I took it apart. You guys know my general rule is not to tear stuff up. If you have a complete engine, even if it's broken, try to keep it as complete as possible, and try to get your parts off an engine that will probably never run again, which would be these. Or, you know what, I'm going to put a bunch of oil into the cylinder on this one and see if we can't free it up. So where are we going with all this? The engine on the all-terrain vehicle in there. Eventually I'll get the shifter out of this and put it in there. And in the meantime, I think we're going to try to get this one here back to life and put it on there. I took the advancer off. These things are hard to get. So be careful with them. Yeah, they're tough to find. You could see this is corroded up. There's a lot of nastiness on there, so I'm going to carefully clean it. You can get the spring, so don't say, "Oh, woe's me," if they're lost. But these things, once again, they're hard to get, and some people misadjust them. Then when they go by the pulse generator, they get chewed up. So be careful with these. As you're taking things apart, do not lose that little pin. By the time you buy one and get it sent to you, they're like $10. So really, don't be losing that. Let us talk timing. So I think I could show you in there. There were two lines. You see a line and it lines up to, let me show you right there. Right, and you see the first line and there's an F next to it. That's fire. And the second line is top dead center. And what you want to do is, see the magnet is up, right? So that means on fire, the magnet goes by the pulse generator and the whole thing fires. And then once again, then you see another line with a T, which is top dead center. So, you know, there's the advance, right? So that's the way that's set up. You see the spring works, which is good. So these are lined up, and to make sure you're not 180 out, right, you make sure that your valves are loose, which means if you took this skull cap off, you would see that both lobes on the cam would be down, right? So once again, loosey-goosey. This right to the top, right? If the pulse generator was on, I'd move it around to make sure it's right there. And you got the fire line, right? I think you're able to see that. Right, is lined up right with that notch. So you need all that. You got to make sure that's there. About putting the fan on. This fan was backwards on the engine. What this fan does, right, you're looking at it, it's in a closed thing, you're going, what is it doing? Actually, what it does is it causes a breeze to blow, not much of a breeze, but a little bit of a breeze to blow over your stator and ignition coils, which are beneath the flywheel. Now, I'm kind of taking a little bit of a chance here, and I'm going to admit that right out loud, because I'm not pulling this flywheel off, but what I am going to do is I am going to make sure that it's alive, which is between here, the stator's alive, which is by putting a meter between here and ground, right? I could also check the yellow wire to ground. This, the yellow wire does your lights, and the red and black powers your CDI, which obviously gives you your spark, and the green does a ground. I went to take this off and I didn't have any luck. I even used my nice new impact driver, and once again that's not coming off, so that's got to get drilled and taken apart. I'm gonna have to fish around the hoard for another pulse generator to put on here and another cover. So hopefully there's one somewhere around the hoard. Anyway, we're drifting toward a compression test, right? One doesn't want to put an engine on that has no compression, eh? Let's try a quick dry compression test. Hit the compression release. I got my drill here. Yeah. Well, let's hope the wet compression's a little better than that. What are we looking at? Somewhere around 40, 45? She'll never start with that. Okay, let's go with a wet compression test. Doesn't seem like my drill has enough oomph. So anyway, we're up over 60, and I'm having trouble turning it over. So I think I'm going to go with, I have enough compression to start. I went to check out the oil plug and oil screen and discovered that it's like broken. Now, I don't think I put that in there. So that's one thing that's wrong. The other thing that's wrong is this is upside down, right? That's got to get cleaned up because you want oil flowing through there. And you want to put that filter like that. Now, this side of the screen is the sump, and the other side of the screen is your oil pump. So this is the way you want it. That way oil leans up against the screen, gets pulled out of that to the oil pump, pumped around, and it comes back to the screen. The other way around, quite honestly, this thing doesn't do anything, right? Picture it just pushed up against there, and what filtering is it doing? It's doing nothing. So you got to put that in the right way. Anyway, with all that, I said, oh, I'll just borrow the plug off this engine. And I don't know my own strength. And this engine, see all the metal and so forth? I think this engine hand grenaded inside, right? When you have all that metal, that's not good. That's not good at all. That means something broke up. The chunks are big too. So this might have chucked a rod or something. I think this is a very dead motor. Also, it's locked in both directions. Sometimes when you chuck a rod, you can kind of go halfway one way or halfway the other. In this case, you can't go halfway anything. It's just bloody locked up. So I think this is dead. I think this is going to become a nice parts donor for the future. I bought this box of parts on eBay a while ago, and you guys could see the mice got in here to some extent, but it did come with a couple of heads. I got a jug there, cam, so a few miscellaneous parts, right, cover. Gotta love it when you got parts. I also found the CDI cover and a shifter, which is good because now I don't have to take things apart. I gotta tell you, I come to this box all the time. It's like always got a few pieces waiting for me ready to go. One of the last things I need to do before we attempt to put this on is just to make sure there are no cracks or leaks. All the bolts are in, right? You want to check all of that before you hang it in the frame, fill it with oil, and discover, oh man, I got this massive oil leak. I got to tear it all apart again. So yeah, it looks all good on this. On the bottom, we have the cover for this. I just have to dig up the CDI and the CDI holder for the top, but we could do that once it's in the frame. This thing is ready to go on, which is going to be the next set of videos. This has already gotten a bit too long. Anyway, I really want to thank you guys for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. When you come back again, this thing will get bolted up. It'll get its first start, and we'll be out there running the heck out of it. We already know the compression is good, the timing is good, and it's put together properly, right? I won't have any surprises in the future. I want to thank you all for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember, feet down, heads up, and get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.